Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Hey everybody, I'm back out at Giga Texas, and as you can tell, it's starting to get some really inclement weather. I'm trying to beat the rains today, so I started early, and that helped get some interesting shots, particularly over at the boring tunnel. Now, first of all, I just want to let you know, I spent the last several days down at Johnson Space Center. I got a chance to participate in the Earthlight Foundation New Worlds Conference, and we got a lot of great information about the current situation with space, some of the interesting observations that astronauts have when they see the Earth from orbit for the very first time. We also talked about some of the companies that are trying to build the modules that will basically replace the International Space Station. And then, of course, we got a chance to talk a lot about space policy and the current situation with trying to get funding, trying to get support through Congress, and national priorities with the space program. So it was very interesting. I'll summarize that in a different video. I just want to let you know that I was able to spend some time out at Johnson Space Center, and there's a lot of great things that I want to pass along to you in a different video. Now for today, a couple of things that I do want to talk about that is of interest. First of all, as I mentioned, the boring tunnel continues to make progress, specifically over on the west side. Got some great views of the tunnel with it lit from the inside. We can see that crews have not only finished the road surface panels, but they've also put the white stain on the inside of the tunnel. They also have lighting, and they're just doing a lot of other work on the inside. Also, when we go on the outside, we can tell that there's additional cleanup and preparation work for the entire facing structure that will allow this tunnel to be operational. And as you can tell, there's a little bit of wind going on here today as the weather starts to wreak havoc with this part of Texas. But anyway, the other thing that I just want to talk about is that there is work up at the electrical switchyard. They continue to make more foundations, probably for another one of those large A-frame structures, as they get ready to connect in that third large transformer and other electronic equipment to allow that switchyard to provide more power to Giga Texas, specifically for the Cortex supercomputer cluster that is being installed on the south end of the factory. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this intro now. Let's get into the drone and let's fly around the site, see what's going on at Giga Texas. And I'm glad I was able to beat out the strong winds and rain that's about to hit this area. So as always, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Good early morning here at Giga Texas on this rainy, very windy day, but it also gives us an opportunity to see much of the site, especially on the south end here, well lit up. And I'll try to take advantage of that as much as I can. Now here on the southeast corner, looking to the northwest, a great overall view of the factory and some of the lit sections here on this southeast corner. Now I'm going to maneuver around the power lines, look at the cooling plant for the Cortex supercomputer cluster. What's very evident is all of the lighting that is underneath on that ground floor where they've been installing the pipes, some of the pumps, and some of the other manifolds that make that system operational. We can also see that two of the fans are also working this morning, which is a great sign. I'd say that the Cortex supercomputer cluster and the cooling system, based on what Tesla has told us recently, is at about 40% of its ultimate capacity. Now on the ground here, we see some trench box and some more of the work with that underground gas pipe that is going underneath River Road. And then as I zoom in, this is a nice view of some of the equipment and the work that is going on, including some of those temporary pipes that are being used to do some final clean out of the cooling system and all the water there. Also, we can get a great view into the corner of the extension, those 4 tanks. Looks like there's some white piping and some additional duct and manifold work, some ventilation shaft above the tanks, and a great look into the bottom floor, well lit, with some of the equipment that is being installed on this part of the factory. Now, pretty soon, once they finish the west side glass, this will get glass treatment as well. Now, on the ground is more of that natural gas pipeline that has been worked on here over the last couple of weeks. And then as I maneuver towards the multi-level parking garage, we can also see that work on those clearing areas around where that white tank is located, and continue to monitor this to see what exactly will be constructed in this area. It could be parking, it could be staging, or it could be another construction project. But as we get closer to this part of the factory, we notice that that temporary loading platform that was used for the cabling has been removed, and that's what I said that I expected on my previous video. And we'll see where the new one is on the northeast corner later in the video. As I maneuver back around the power lines, I'll bring the drone down lower. Another view of the cooling system, again with 2 of the fan units being operational, the lighting and the large manifolds for those water that is part of the cooling system, very visible here on the ground. It does look like there's still some sort of a large manifold that needs to be connected in that middle section where you see the large pipe coming up out of the ground and bending 90 degrees, and those 2 receptacle pipe joint connections waiting for that to be done. There is some employees on the ground getting ready to start work, great sense of scale. And as I turn back, this is a look at the second floor and some of that ductwork that has been installed. Also some views through the glass at how that is starting to transform on that second floor, and more look at the ground floor where the Cortex supercomputer cluster is located. So I'm going to wrap around the south end of the building. Nice view of the cyber pond. Also, the 3 level of the terracing here. The 3 tunnels that are used for excavation, emergency exits of people. And we can also see where there's some excavation work for those pipes that are sticking out that are part of the roof drainage system. Also see that grass seed has been spread on 2 of the 3 levels, and that is most likely for erosion control. There's also a look through the glass into some kind of either a temporary mezzanine or a mezzanine being built in that southeast corner, and some additional interior structures that are being erected here on this south end as well. So I'm going to continue to fly around the southwest corner, and we'll take a look at the glass installation on the west side. There's some nice close-in views of the work that's going on the ground floor here through that main entrance-like section. Again, we see more of the glass in the crates on these trailers waiting for their turn to be installed. And on the west side, about 50% of the glass has now been installed, and this is a great look at how this is starting to materialize. There is this new perimeter grade beam in the middle of the screen and that open section, so I'm still watching to see what will happen there. And then this open section on the bottom right behind the crane. This is what's being prepared for Model Ys to be able to drive through, have access to the tunnel, and then proceed over to the west outbound lot. And we'll see some additional work related to this later in the video. There are no Cybertrucks coming out of the factory right now, but then again, this is quite early on a Monday morning. And as I turn back around, a great look back towards that southwest corner and how that all part of the factory continues to transform. So I'm going to get ready to go across the road, and we'll take a look at some of the development at the Boring Company today. Overall, there's a lot of cleanup around this end of the tunnel. Just one small section of the equipment and trailer for the Boring Company, but otherwise all of the natural gas pipeline has been installed, all of the trenches has been filled back in, and this is a good view here as I bring the drone down about the grade difference between the foreground and where the tunnel is located. As I zoom in, I'll give you some great views getting in closer to the tunnel, and we'll see what the progress is right now. Of course, all of the road surface panels are installed. The lighting has been installed. They've painted or stained the interior portions of the tunnel that white that is pretty much traditional for the Boring Company tunnel. And with the worker walking away, this gives you a good sense of how far down in this tunnel goes, at least as far as we can see. Now there's going to be some additional work on the facing structure here of the tunnel before they can have it in operation, but it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing some test vehicles going through here in the very near future. As I pull away, this is a great overall view of the work here, that small excavation with those 8 piers, and still waiting to find out what exactly this is and how it relates to the Boring Tunnel. And of course, a great look across this area to the west of all of the cleanup and how it is continuing to transform. Now we're going to get ready to fly up over the West Warehouse on Wheels. I want to take you to the triangular staging lot and show you some development that is going on in this section of the site, and specifically what's going on with some of the new transformers. We do still see steel and steel corrugated pipe stored here, some concrete items in the upper left, but the main attraction is all of these transformers. I think that there is now around 80 of them, so there's about 8 more that have been delivered in the last couple of days, and those are on the right-hand side of the screen next to that blue and white crane. Again, these are specifically for some storage, battery storage, or also solar panels. So these are a little different than some of the other ones that we will see here in a moment. As we pass over some of this section where more of the steel items are stored, some of that is being used inside the factory to increase the production capacity and redo some of the production lines. We also see this line of equipment that continues to grow, and this is more production equipment for the factory. And we see the silver wrapped items, those have actually doubled in number. We see these kind of dark wooden crates. We've seen about double of those since my last video. And then in this section here, we see some trailers showing that there's crews working on this new AP&T stamping press, a lot of the various items that will be used to construct the stamping press, and they've also put some new wrapping on those platens on the bottom and those kind of tan color items, and then other one has that tan cover as well. We saw them working on that on my previous couple of videos. So that's getting pretty close to seeing those moved in for installation. As we come over towards this part of the site, we see these kind of the X energy items in the white wrapping, and this is part of a data center cooling system. We also see well over 80, I think it may be almost 90 of these white transformers, and these are also related to what's going on in the south part of the factory, but these I believe are part of just electrical systems and not solar or battery storage like we saw in the previous ones. There are not a lot of vehicles in the outbound lot today. Almost all of what you see are Cybertrucks, but otherwise it's pretty empty. Now, we do have a clue of what is going on the west side of General Assembly, just north of the west main entrance. And I will show you that here momentarily. But I think that what's going on is we are not only early on a Monday, but also we're in a kind of a point where some of the production lines inside are getting some additional reconfiguration work, preparing for the work and the extra products that are going to be coming in 2025. There is a little bit of work here at the end of line facility and the test track. We'll follow this Cybertruck to the south. And of course, this end of line facility replaced a lot of the floor space inside the factory, particularly where I'll be showing you some changes where the Model Ys exit. And with this completed, it's freeing up more of the space inside the factory for Tesla to prepare for 2025. But this is a nice look at the superchargers here on the south end and the level of activity that is going on here on this side of the highway. As we do cross over the highway, I'll bring the drone down here towards the main entrance. A couple of things to point out. The flagpoles do not have flags today. That is because we've been having some extremely strong winds and rainstorms coming through the area, so I think they took them down because of that. We do see that the mounting plates on the bottom of each of the flagpoles have been installed, and it looks like there's some additional rework of the landscaping going on. As we pass the west main entrance, this is the part of the factory I wanted to show you some changes. This is the exit point for the Model Ys. It used to be the end of line for the Model Ys. You'll note that one of the two black ramps had been removed, and there is some construction and also some rework of the perimeter grade beam right in that section. So obviously there's some big changes going on inside the factory in that part of the Giga Texas, and that is partly why we don't see any Model Ys at this moment in time, because of that work. Now here's another area of rework that has been underway for some time. It looks like most of the work still is on those stairs that they are preparing for these doors. Not a lot of change where that green temporary panel is for that opening. There are some more of the cans for the 4680s being recycled today, so that shows that there is work going on with those new production lines inside this part of the factory. I also noticed that the tank has now been delivered and they are doing a final installation. I think that this is a nitrogen tank, although I don't see the labels on it at this moment in time. Of course, the bollards there are to protect it from any traffic and potential collisions if that were to occur. On the roof here with the ducts, the ducted fans, and some additional ventilation system, this is all to support those increased capabilities and production lines for the 4680s. Of course, right on this part of the factory directly underneath is where all of that work is taking place. As I continue to fly to the north along this northeast side, we'll see that most of the area here next to these two loading platforms has been cleared up today. Not a lot of materials or any activity, which is actually a great sign because all of what is going on the inside is getting close to being ready for production, if not already into production. We do note that there is this continuing trend over the weekend of making more and more of the castings while production is not happening, and then the excess that they make over the weekends are used during the week to help keep ahead of whatever production that they are doing. And it looks to me like all of these are for the Cybertruck today. And I'll fly along and give you some good views of all of these castings. Now, this large temporary loading platform is used for the spools of the electrical cable that is being run along the parapet wall to power the Cortex supercomputer cluster. I'll give you some different views of that here momentarily. While I'm at the ground level, I'll show you this new structure over the receiving doors here in front of casting. And it's definitely taking shape. Almost all of the roof and the wall panels, plus that valley drain, have been completed. The baghouse filtration plant continues to have more of its pipes and equipment installed. And as I bring the drone up over the top part of the structure, I'll give you a bird's eye view down of how the connections are being made into the casting machine structure itself. Also, the continued assembly of the equipment on the top level, and of course some of the electrical wires that tend to go down near where those tanks are on the south end. And a view across this section with more of the castings being stored along that berm section, which was recently reconfigured and relined. And we can see all the rack mounts in addition to some of them on the ground. Now on the center bottom of the screen, you see all of these cables. This is as far as they've come from the south, and that loading platform is where they're going to be loading more cables to connect into here and finish up those connections. This access point looks like it's almost completed. The painting of the gray plus the white roofing material, and there's that double door that is yet to be installed. I believe this is going to help with access to this level of the roof so that crews can come up and do the filter changes of all of these ducted ventilation systems. Here's another look at the loading platform. You see some of the racks along the parapet wall and the orange device that's for the spool of cable. That will be loaded up here. They'll run the cable and do the connections, and then looking all the way down to the south of the factory, the cables run to the Cortex supercomputer cluster, and this also connects to the switchyard on the north, and all this upgrade work is necessary to support the full extent of the Cortex supercomputer. Now while I'm here, I'll bring the drone down, I'll zoom in. This is a look into that structure with the receiving doors, that blast wall, and some of the other equipment that is being used to do the assembly here on the east side of the casting machine structure. And as I pan the drone to the left, we'll see the almost ground level view of the baghouse filtration plant and how this appears today. Also the height of this structure that it has in relation to the main factory as well. As I turn further to the south, I just wanted to take a look at this new concrete apron, the receiving doors, and how this section looks. Not a lot of change in the last couple of days since my previous video. So I'm going to reposition all the way over to the battery cathode plant, and we'll take a look at what is going on that side, part of the site today. It appears that all of the trench work, the ground, the grading, all that supported the the field kitchen, which is at the center of the screen, has been all completed. This is a close-in view of the crash test facility with its new perimeter wall and that kind of black fibrous material. And also just a general look at the east side of the battery cathode plant, where we see that most of the trailers and equipment have been removed. Here's a nice look at some of the vehicles that have undergone crash testing here recently, and the Wade pit as well, which hasn't been used really in a while. And of course, here is the cell test and recycling lab, and that looks like it has had some cleanup around the area as well, and is one of the part of the facilities here that is used quite often. As we wrap around the north end of the cathode plant, I did notice some changes here with the materials. The black items on the right haven't changed a whole lot, but on the left, more of the materials for the equipment that was delivered recently that supports the battery cathode manufacturing, including these red and white items. It looks like they've been more unpacked and more moved inside for assembly. There is a big change with the chiller plant. All of the rental equipment with the temporary chillers and generators have all been moved away. And it looks like there's some additional pipes that have been added on parts of the chilling plant, especially up by the Vapco units. And generally, it looks like it's a kind of a self-contained, self-operational chiller unit now without having all of that augmentation equipment that we've seen over the last several months. So that's a big change, plus some equipment here on the north end of the die shop next to the external furnace as well. So I'm going to reposition back over to the electrical switch yard, and we'll take a look at some of the changes and activity that is going on here today. As I mentioned, the Cortex supercomputer requires a lot of energy, and these upgrades are what is necessary to help support that energy need. At the end of this year, it'll be about 100 megawatt hours of energy that it will require when operational. At the end of 2025, that will go up to 500 megawatt hours. Now here they are doing some auger drilling to put more footings in, most likely so that we can have more of those A-frame structures. The circuit breaker has been installed, and then on this part of the site we see more of the footings that have been installed, the larger ones, and those are consistent with what is necessary for more of the A-frames, similar to what we already see on the screen. Of course, the slab and the catch basin is waiting for the transformer to arrive. There is some trench work that is underway right now, and that wall that will separate the transformers is still waiting for construction. We'll also see another one of those white trailers on that underground vault that we just passed over. So that'll bring to a close this view of Giga Texas on this Monday, the 4th of November. I hope that you enjoyed what we talked about in the intro and what we were able to talk about throughout the video. As always, thank you very much for your support. I do appreciate it. Have a great week.